You're such an asshole.
Strap yourselves in, Cappy Capites. We got another long one. And the client ain't gonna like my response, but I did my reason. I mean, he'll like it. It's just he won't necessarily agree with it or what he's looking for. Hello, Aaron. Millennials get a lot of flack, and rightly so. My generation is garbage, but I think the people who begat them deserve 98% of the blame. If a dog is poorly trained, you blame the owner, not the dog. If a kid has misbehaved, you blame the parents, not the child. If raising children poorly was their only sin, I think we could all move on. However, not only did boomers fail to prepare their children for any kind of adversity, they squandered the greatest inheritance in human history. And you are 100% right there, because I went through and put together an outline. But before I delve into it and tell you why I kind of disagree with you, but you are correct right there. There's no doubting that the baby boomers inherited the greatest gift ever in humanity, and they pissed it away in about 20 to 25 years. It is the acceleration, the decay, the speed of decay it's unbelievable. Unbelievable. So you're 100% correct there, because then it was like they went from like, here's some platinum, they turned it into shit. And then, essentially, basically, what you're going to find out with my research is Gen X was about as shitty as the baby boomers, and then the millennials are measurably shittier than the previous two. But there was no rapid decay like the average quality and caliber of a person between a millennial, a Gen Xer, and a baby boomer. They're pretty crappy. Whereas, though, going from the greatest generation or the silent generation, it just the collapse in the caliber and quality of human and your average American it's just despicable. It's sad and tragic. So you are right there. They also created tremendous problems, from the public debt bomb, the student debt bomb. No. Wait. You millennials signed on that dotted line. You signed on that dotted line. And the public debt bomb, remember, half the debt came under Obama's watch. Half the national debt came under Obama's watch. Now we're going to go into who voted him in later. The offshoring of jobs, the importation of cheap labor, the destruction of the dollar, overpricing starter homes, and countless other intergenerational Ponzi's. The boomers have made it almost impossible to succeed. When the big one hits, it will fall to the millennials to solve, and the boomers have unequipped us for success at every level, financially, economically, demographically, society, and philosophically. When the big one hits, the blame will fall to millennials. But before it does, I want you to take a giant steaming turd on everyone born between 1946 and 1964. I'll tell you this, if you're worried about posterity and how the millennials are going to go down, you will not be remembered as the generation that destroyed America. You won't. That is purely the right domain and charter of the baby boomers. They own that 100%. I don't think the historians are going to look. I think the historians in history will look back and say, yes, you're right, as you point out, well, how far did the apple fall from the tree? The baby boomers were the first generation to bring in the suck. And so there will be an element of forgiveness for Gen X and millennials and any future successive generation. Although the baby boomers are done having kids, so Gen Z, now that's squarely on Gen X. And my God, looking at how my generation is raising the kids, I mean, I thought you millennials were shitty, but man, this upcoming generation, these kids are going to be fucking worthless. I mean, I call the millennials a wasted crop, which is, if you think about it, a horrendous, not accusation, but a horrendous viewpoint. Like, you're just an entire field of crop of humans wasted. These current kids being brought up, no spanking, and everyone thinks they're Stefan Molyneux, but the problem Stefan Molyneux has in not spanking his children is not everybody's Stefan Molyneux. The people breeding are half his intelligence, and yeah. Anyway, I don't think you're going to have to worry about, you might be remembered as the most pathetic, sad generation, but you're not going to be accused of starting the collapse of the United States. So, let's get through this. I want to take this large thing, this large request, and apply some methodology to it to figure it out. And I didn't want it to be too long, so I really boiled it down to, okay, which generation is the worst, and what variables and traits am I going to use? Now, I boiled it down to very few variables, right? One, work ethic. Are you going to work? That's how all societies either fail or succeed. Are you going to work? Are you a lazy, entitled fuck? Are you a hardworking, industrious, like 1890s and farmer, laborer, or whatever? So that's the end. 2, how did you vote? Did you vote for freedom or free shit? Did you vote for a smaller state, which thousands of years of Western civilization has fought, hundreds of millions at least of men have died. Lots of people have given up their lives. Many great sacrifices were given so that we could not only have the government not control us, but us control the government, but allow us to keep our shit, allow us to keep our freedom. How many of you decided to spit in the face of all those people and vote for an increasing state? Not to mention just parasite and live off of other people. Right? The problem with that, as I'll get to later, is that the millennials are still relatively young. And when you're younger, you obviously vote for more free shit because you're stupid. And you don't have long-term thought processes. You're just an idiot. And that goes for every generation. But I'll go into that. And then the third variable is this smorgasbord of societal traits, which is hard to define and measure because, how do you measure fashion? How do you measure music? It's simple. It sucks. Most of it sucks. But then I delve into that. And then I try to address your rearing and raising, which isn't a variable, but I do address it and bring in some logic. And again, there could be a billion things. I've looked at divorce rate. I looked at out-of-wedlock births. And there is no one pattern. There's a trend, but you find out that every generation since the World War II generation just fucking sucks. We're despicable people, and we're pathetic. And the lesson you're going to find out in the end is one that's very important for all my listeners and anyone watching this who has a job. All right. Work ethic is very simple. I just want to see what the teenage labor force participation rate was. And they have this goal across since 1947 or whatever. And ever so roughly, the baby boomers had a labor force participation rate from the ages of 16 to 19 of 51%, Gen X 54%, and then it fucking tanks to where it currently is today at about 35, right, for the millennials. Now, there was a drop down to 45 during the baby boomer generation, but then, I think and what you'll find out in this research is that it's not neatly components where it's like, these people are baby boomers, these are Gen Xers, and to the very last second of that, okay, now you're a Gen Xer, but you were a baby boomer. There's different components, different generations. So the older boomers tended to be more conservative. The younger boomers were spoiled fucking cunts. And then the Gen Xers, did you grow up during the Volcker recession and remember Reagan? Or were you a Clintonite and you just say, oh my God, Bill Clinton played a saxophone. Blah, 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 socialism. But anyway, ever so roughly, the baby boomers were at 51%, Gen X 54%, millennials 35%. And again, this focuses on the youth because the millennials aren't 60. We can't compare you to modern day baby boomers. But if we look at the work ethic people had back when they were young, the millennials come in dead last, and by a wide margin. Now, can you expect a 16 or 17-year-old to have a work ethic? Okay, yeah, I understand that. But this is the best indication we got as to a work ethic, generationally speaking. And the millennials have none. They have none. Yes, I know the one millennial works very hard. I know, they are out there. But as a whole, talking generationally, the millennials have no work ethic. Or the least amount of work ethic since recorded time. Or since we've been keeping records. Now, the other thing, are you voting for freedom or free shit? Are you voting for, I'm going to work hard and carry my own life, or I want to be a parasite? This was hard. This is what took most amount of research. What I did is basically figured out who did the different generations vote for when they were younger. Because the general trend is that you get older, you get wiser, you get smarter, and you realize we can't all just vote for free shit like a stupid 19-year-old child does. All right? This is why as you get older, you get more conservative, and you start voting Republican more. There is variations, even within the generations, but that's the general trend. So what I want to do is see how did people vote when they were young, under 30. basically, 35 or under. And it's hard because the presidential elections don't neatly line up with generational births, and is that a boomer, is that a... I tried my best. And also, there's some other variables that, like, just because you voted this way with president doesn't mean you voted that way for Senate or kind. But I just took presidential elections. I took the 4 elections that you would be, first 4 youngest elections a generation would be voting for. And I added up the favorability, the balance between Democrat and Republican. So here we have the baby boomers. Nixon Kennedy was +9 Democrat, Goldwater Johnson +28 Democrat, Carter Ford +12 Democrat, and then Carter Reagan was a wash, and here's where it's not a perfect science. Anderson, if you remember him, he was the Libertarian candidate. He came in and took 10% of the vote, and presumptively from Reagan, because Libertarians tend to be more Republican. And so you could say, well, would that go? I wiped that out. I didn't consider third-party candidates, and wait till we get to Perot. Now, out of curiosity, though, I wanted to do Reagan-Mondale in 1984, and here the baby boomers did an about-face. I didn't include it in the data because at that time they were real adults with jobs. They had suffered, and they were living on their own and had their own places. But they went +19 Republican. Now, of course, this is due to the popularity of Reagan, but here's another thing. Nixon, he was very unpopular because of fucking Watergate. So the popularity of the president will play a role in this. And I just want to make that a sub-note. I mean, the data is what the data is. But taking out that outlier, I just want to point that and use that as an example. The youth vote leaning or benefit or bias that the baby boomer generation had towards voting for free shit and against freedom and living off of other people was 12.25% Democrat. All right? And every young generation has a leaning towards Democrat because, once again, you guys are dumb, idiot parasites. Gen X, my generation. Okay, Bush Dukakis +6 Republican. That was the first election with Bush, Reagan, Bush, and then Reagan has 2 terms, and then Bush came along. So the popularity of Reagan could have spilled into that. Would we have voted as much Republican as we did had we not grown up with Reagan and become Reaganauts? Probably not. But then teachers got to us, and Clinton Bush +9 Democrat, Clinton Dole +20 Democrat, and then Bush Gore +3 Democrat. So the Gen X youth vote only leaned towards the Democrats 6.5%. Then the Millennials come in, and holy fucking shit. Bush Kerry, if you remember that long ago. I was like, who did he run against? And what is it? It's like, no, he ran against John Kerry. +13%. Oh, no, that's not right. Oh, I did do Bush Gore. Okay, all right, here we go. Bush Kerry, +13% Democrats. Obama McCain, +34 for the Democrats. I mean, only two-thirds. And keep in mind, it's like, 30%. No. Twice as many millennials voted Democrats as Republican. It was like 63-33 or something like that. You guys were lining up to choke on Obama's dick. Just like you were programmed and trained, which we're going to address later as well. Obama-Romney, only 23% in favor of Obama, despite the lousy economy and no and indebting your generation. That was brilliant. And then the most recent election, Trump-Clinton, +19%. So the millennial youth vote is 22.25% leading Democrat. I mean, you guys can't get enough of the big D. And you did exactly what your teachers told you. Now, here's another thing. Just as Reagan was very popular amongst everybody and might have lowered the Democrat vote amongst Gen Xers, Obama was kind of like, you guys were fanfare. You guys were fed and you followed like sheep perfectly. You lined up and voted for Obama. So one could say that celebrity-like status of Obama maybe skewed it more towards the Democrats than would be normal. So these two things is really how I'm going to judge, because then we get into less concrete and finite metrics. But right there, it tells us, based on youth, you have no work ethic compared to other shitty generations, and you can't wait to vote for other people's shit. I know not you. I know not most of the millennials listening here, but your peers, your generations, are the millennial peers, are basically lampreys. You're lampreys, leeches, and parasites. You cannot wait for other people's money. Then there's societal traits. I want to throw this in here somehow because we can look at data and statistics all we want. And it depends, like the divorce rate will skyrocket. Well, the boomers were horrible. It's like, well, wait, it came down a little bit. Everyone's saying, oh, the divorce rate is down to 40%. It's at a 40-year low. And it's like, yeah, because it went incrementally down by about 2%. It's way the fuck still high. It's just the baby boomers made it a fucking Olympic event. Anyway, so I started to sit and think, okay, what are the non-numerical values and metrics that we can look at? And so you look at each generation when they're younger. Again, we got it because the millennials aren't adults yet. You got to look and say, okay, how do they present themselves to society? And so there is the arts. You have fashion. And, I know the millennials' fashion is kind of shit, but I remember men wearing nylons on their arms and wearing mascara. We ended it by about the age of 25. I remember girls cutting their hair short. If you look at some hippies back in the 60s and 70s, hell, all of 70s fashions, the baby boomers, I mean, that's it. You would probably have to say the 70s in terms of fashion, automobiles, it all looked like shit. So I think the boomers maybe win that one. But don't think that the millennials and Gen Xers were looking like fucking Audrey Hepburn and Cary Grant. All right? They just weren't. Music is shit all around. Welcome to the Hotel California. Yeah, man, it's a great song. And then my generation, oh, I sat on the toilet while I had to wipe my ass with plush toilet paper. Hey, now I didn't expect a second shit. Oh, I better sit on the toilet now. Jeremy's spoken. Hey. That bullshit. And then I stopped listening to music in my generation because we thankfully had a renaissance in swing dance and jazz. And I don't know, I couldn't name one Beyonce song, I couldn't name one Taylor Swift song. And I do know the All About the Bass because a friends of mine kid watched, and that's the only reason I know that one. But your music is equally shitty to every other generation's music. And ain't none of you ever gonna come up against the Duke Ellington or Miles Davis or anything I think 62, 64 was right about where it ended. Maybe Vince Guaraldi, but not pop music. Architecture is shit. It's shit all around. This is the infiltration of lazy people. Lazy, talentless people who want to be artists but have no artistic skill and no determination to put forth the effort, toil, and work into honing their art, creating actually something of beauty, and instead we now have the minimalists. That was ushered in with the baby boomers, and now the millennials and the Gen Xers just run with it. It's just, I made a dot. And now you have to mask your complete lack of artistic talent with a political message. It shows the transgressions of the white people against the gays, and so that's the architecture, the art. It's all gone. It's just all gone. However, there are two things where the millennials stand out, and unfortunately, if we look, at society, and how are you presenting yourself to society, this is where the millennials start. Not only for voting and parasitism, but where you fall behind, and that is your complete fear and abhorrence and envy of beauty, and your fake mental disorders and your mental problems. When I say beauty, let us understand what beauty is. That is making one be attractive. I don't mean to be beauty like only for women, but physical attraction. It is selfless because you have to work hard at it, it takes effort, and it's not fun. And you're doing it for other people. Now, men, of course, you're doing it because you want to get other people. Women would like to get a attractive, stable man. Men would like to get a hot, attractive woman. But you got to go to the gym. The millennials, they haven't rebuked it. You have gone running away like scaredy cats, not from beauty, but from the effort and toil that is required of it. And this shit like fat acceptance and mutilating yourselves. I mean, okay, yeah, there was the occasional idiot in my generation that would tattoo themselves. I get it. But doing anything and everything you can, taking pride in traits you were born with, or bad habits like obesity and trying to take pride. Again, not you. I know you, all right? No, not personally, but I know my generation, or my audience. But millennials as a whole are so lazy and such cowards that instead of going to the gym, instead of, putting on a decent haircut and doing yourself up and wearing some heels and putting on a nice dress, I'm not talking slutty, but doing the simple courtesy of putting forth some effort into working out, hygiene, and not making yourself look like a complete fucking freak so that when you walk out, you are presenting yourself to public. Remember, go look at all these old pictures from I did this before. Take a look at some pictures of soup lines from the Great Depression. You know how all the men are dressed? They have their hats on, nice hats, not stupid hats like this, and they have their suits on. You go to a fair, picture taken in the 1940s, women are wearing dresses, men are wearing suits. Doesn't matter race or ethnicity. Everybody went out, we're going to go out in public, and I don't want to bring shame upon me or my generation or my family making us look like shit. All right? Now go to a campus, oh my gosh. Girls got their hair multiple colors, shaved, piercings, you're stupid fucking idiots with your ear gauges, you got piercings here, and you do that. Not you again. You do that because that's beauty. Because you're afraid of the gym. You're afraid of working out. You are afraid of having to admit that there is a lifelong responsibility you have, a part-time job, of putting forth effort into maintaining your body and your beauty. And it's wincing at best for the rest of us. We got to look at you morons dressed like shit. Now look, obviously I am not looking like Cary Grant today. And if you have seen my videos, you know I do not look like Cary Grant most mornings. But I know how to tie a tie. I have suits. When I go up, I will clean myself up. I'm not going to tattoo my face. And I'm certainly not going to take pride in flaws and weaknesses and bad habits. I'm not taking pride in my fat. I'm not taking pride in some fucking Chinese character that reminds me of my grandpa. I'm not taking pride in the fact that I'm independent and that's why I shaved my head and I got a nose piercing just like everybody else because I'm independent. That is, and you have gone further than, at least there were some hot hippie chicks in the 60s and 70s. At least I remember, and now admittedly Winona Ryder was not the greatest, but at least in the 90s, girls could back up their asses into this and they were pretty good looking. There's some hot chicks back in the 90s. Now, there's some good looking girls, but my God, the pursuit of ugliness. It's not even the eschewing of beauty. It is the pursuit of ugliness and taking pride in a eighth deadly sin like that. This you guys have taken that to a completely different level. Then there's these, I don't want to say mental disorders, but I couldn't think of a better one. And I'm not necessarily talking about, I got the ADHDs or I got the Asperger's. Certainly that, faking those disorders so you can get attention in government checks, that certainly falls under this category. But more this mental behavior where you need safe spaces and people have privilege and there's triggering and there's microaggressions and you have 31 flavors of gender this week and Lord knows what it's going to be next week. And the psychotic commitment and obsession you have with this stuff. A perfect example, last week, the librarian who was so deluded and delusional that she finds racism in Cat in the Hat and Dr. Seuss. That insanity is so skewed and so specific to the millennial generation. You even got baby boomer leftists, huge leftists, baby boomer leftists saying, whoa, what the hell? You even got leftist professors saying, the bullshit, another perfect example, the bullshit of showing the generations that Professor Weinstein over at Evergreen College and the psychotic millennials who are like threatening him and they're going to take over the campus and all that. That right there, if you can't even win over a leftist sociology professor or whatever, a socialist professor, and even they're drawing the lines, this is purely a mental disorder owned by the millennials. And that's something that I even in the most leftist of leftist things of my generation, I didn't see anything like that. Oh, sure, we saw some weird old leftists, and they certainly wanted other people's money, but they did not come up with they didn't go and mutilate their genitalia so they could be popular because going to the gym was too hard. We didn't do that. We didn't pierce our lips and our tongues and, well, okay, we did start it, but nowhere near to the level you guys did. All right, so we could throw all this stuff together. Voting rates, parasitism, all that other stuff. And as I said before, we're 3 generations running on 4 when we get Gen Z, and I see my generation raise these kids. We're going to have 4 generations of just outright low-quality, shitty humans. Pathetic, sad Americans, which is, again, another reason that I can enjoy the decline. I don't care about the future of the country because, frankly, the generations that are going to inherit it don't deserve a great country. Well, they deserve what they're going to get. They definitely deserve that. But they don't deserve this 1958 GDP growing at 7%, no debt, America's the greatest, jobs are everywhere. No, they don't deserve it. But anyway, when you compare all 3, baby boomers, Gen Xers, millennials do take the cake. You guys you are that sad and pathetic. I mean, we thought, we were 100% shit. You guys managed to be the bacteria on the shit. That is how bad and pathetic the millennials are. Again, there are some good millennials. Again, there are some millennials that are completely clueless. But then there are millennials that just full-blown, infantile, psychotic, crybaby, parasitic bullshit. And given how much you guys voted for a socialist candidate, Obama, and how little of you are working, and how many of you live at home, and all that other, and then the pathetic public behavior, how you present yourselves in public. I'm sorry, Gen X and the baby boomers ain't got anything on that. We really don't. Now, the rearing and the raising variable, this aspect you bring into it. As I said, you are 100% correct. You are 100% right. You are the byproduct of your parents. We could even argue the World War II generation that went through such hell wanted to avoid and prevent their children from going through such hell. And thus they started by spoiling their generation rotten. And I would just keep spoiling future successive generations rotten. So you are a byproduct of your parents and the environment you were raised in. But here's where it gets interesting, and I like to use Gen X as a control group. By no means am I saying Gen X is the best. We are shit. But when you look at the voting, we weren't as parasitic in our voting. When you look at our work ethics based on youth, we had a stronger work ethic. And despite coming from the baby boomers, we still grew the fuck up, moved the fuck out of the house, got jobs. All right, we had to deal with the, you may not remember, it's the .com crisis. That pretty much tanked our employment prospects right off the bat. Then we had to deal with the housing bubble. Gen X has been on the ropes, but in the end, we still got the fuck out of the house, grew the fuck up, started voting at least not leftist, although we're slowly, ever so incrementally going there, but less so than we used to. Inevitably, we started maturing and becoming adults. And the reason why is that you're right. You are a byproduct of your parents. But that is such fatism, and it's also ignoring one fact, and that is you're a human being, and ultimately you're responsible for your own behavior. All right, we have a joke called monkey see, monkey don't do between me and my family. And it's like, watch, don't do that. Whoa, don't do that. Inevitably, Gen X had the independent mind, the independent thought to say, we're going to grow up. I'm not doing this, all right? I'm going to change tactics. I'm going to change strategy. And there's a lot of that. We see a lot of that at Asshole Consulting. We see a lot of that in the Red Pill community. We see a lot of that in the Manosphere, where I'd say millions of young, predominantly men, but some women too, millennials, are waking up and changing the path. And that's good. That's a good sign. But as a group as a whole, Gen X inevitably, no matter how bad their background or whatever, the parents brought them up, inevitably said, sorry, I got to take over my own life. And you give an example of like a dog is ill-trained, you got to blame the master. That's a dog. That's a dog, not a human. Humans are capable of sentient thought, independent mind, and independent control. And they're not complete. I mean, inevitably you can go out and get jobs. A dog just can't go out and get a job. Society is geared around for humans. And this is where I firmly come down against the millennials. And though the baby boomers have plenty, they got enough blood on their hands, don't worry. But this is the lesson that we got. Look, if there's going to be any lemonade made out of these lemons, we got a lot of lemons. This is what the millennials have got to learn and realize. Where the millennials, just in my mind, are just hands down, even just boom, is how you claim to be all so independent-minded. You claim to be so smart, you fucking know it all, you fucking think you're intelligent, you go to college, you major in all this worthless shit, and you're so dumb. You're so clueless. You don't realize you're getting brainwashed and are sheep. And the hypocrisy for you to say you know better than people who are older than you. And that you're the smartest generation. And you're saying that we're old and square. And you're just going to vote for... And your strategy is other people's free shit. Or other people's shit that you get for free. That's where it's like, nah, fuck you. Just fuck you. Again, not personally fuck you, but fuck you to the millennials. You live at home, you parasite, you vote for other people's shit, you whine and bitch and complain about, to a level way beyond whatever Gen X and the baby boomers did. And then you still have the audacity to think you know something because you majored in a worthless, pathetic, barely, completely effortless liberal arts degree. And a bunch of idiots from my generation and some hanger-ons from the baby boomer generation told you, yeah, man, you're entitled to free shit, man, because of patriarchy and white people and peni, which is the plural for penis, or penises. Anyway, that's where it's this arrogant, condescending attitude of not by far, but very clearly the worst performing generation up to this age, up to their age. And so I would love, trust you know me, I would love to slam on the baby boomers. And I do, because that's where the most decay happened. And I love slamming on my own generation, and I do, because I grew up and I realized how pathetic they were. But you guys, the millennials, are almost a generation unto their own because of all this crazy psycho bullshit. And the complete lack, generation-wise, bar these few sprouts of hope that we see in the red pill community, where you are taking command of your life. It looks like, you guys voted. There was no learning. No learning. You had two terms of Obama, and then you just lined up like you're programmed to do and vote for Hillary Clinton's dick, which I think there is one. So I would love to slam on the baby boomers, and to a certain extent I have. Trust you me. You are right. You're right. They started this. This is they will be remembered, trust you me, the historians, the people writing the books, the internet. And it's not like Generation X and the millennials have a lot of love for the baby boomer generation. It's going to go down in history as the worst generation, or as the one that is to blame for the collapse of the United States. But in terms of which is worse, I'm going to have to say it's the millennials. And I'm pretty confident in that based on some of these statistics and some of the stuff we're saying. Now, final lesson, as my stupid phone rings. What are you doing? I guarantee it's one of those calls. What are you doing? No reason to call you. I just see what's going on. What's going on? No generations, but especially the millennials, individual millennials, should concern themselves about how the rest of society views their generation. I understand you're part of that, and there will be some association that'll come with it. Kind of like a black tax, like, oh, you're black, therefore I'm going to assume you're, oh, yeah, oh, look out. But unfair as that might be, don't take personal umbrage when people slam on the millennials. It's kind of like when people hated on bankers. Well, I was a banker at the time during the crisis. I didn't take it personally because I knew deep down inside I didn't advocate any of the stuff. I was trying to stop it. if you're a millennial and you're simply not a leftist, you're self-supporting, you don't live at home, you want to work hard. I know it's hard because the economy is not growing by leaps and bounds because Obama was supposed to change that. But as long as you know in your heart that you're working hard and you're not like piercing your fucking lip and putting on tattoos and saying it means a lot to you and it defines you because you're fucking sad and pathetic. As long as you know that, yeah, I got to work hard, I got to support myself, I'm going to try my best. You do not, none of this accusations or criticisms that society is heaping upon the millennial generation, none of that shit applies to you. And so you shouldn't feel bad or ashamed or anything like that. If anything, it gives you kind of an advantage if you play it right. And that is, look, we do need workers. And right now the unemployment rate is under 5%, which is pretty tight. It's just the labor force participation sucks. But if you are a millennial that shows the fuck up on time, I mean, think how low the bar is for you right now, for millennials. If you're a millennial girl, all you have to do is grow your hair out long, not be fat, not tattoo your face, and not pierce yourself in weird places. And you're in the top 10 to 15%. If you're a millennial boy, all you gotta do is not wear skinny jeans, not grow your beard out here, hit the fucking gym occasionally, run, and you're in the top 15 or 20% for sex or physical beauty. Work ethic, same thing. Show the fuck up on time. Get a degree that doesn't involve sucking Karl Marx's dick. Have some like engineering, accounting, programming, something like that. You'll probably find a job. And then, I don't know what else. I mean, it's just, if you decide to be the average person and just support you, like you have your own place and don't live at home, holy cow. How did you do it? You must be a millennial god. And so I know it sucks being part of such a pathetic generation because until you guys came along, Gen X was pretty much it. We were pretty sad and pathetic. And now thank God you guys are here and we look good by comparison. As long as you just try a little bit more than the other guy, you're going to stand out and you're going to have more success. But this goes for every generation. I mean, there are good baby boomers out there. And I think the baby boomers have caught so much flack for so long. Not to mention, I think they're old enough, they realize it, and they're kind of ashamed. But I can't imagine, there's these conservative baby boomers out there who, think about that. They've been yelled at by every generation for being a bunch of hippie dippies. Like, yeah, but I never did pot, and I still listened to Duke Ellington. I never went to the Doors concert. No, I hate Jim Morrison. I was happy when he died. For everyone across whatever generation, don't let the criticisms of your generation bother you. As long as you worked hard, didn't vote to live off of other people and be a parasite, got out of the house before you were 25, and didn't file for bankruptcy or expect a bailout or anything. Like, if you were a true man, an independent man or an independent woman, that's it. That's all that matters is the individual. But, yes, no, you're right. The baby boomers are to blame. They're the ones that started it. But Gen Xers, Millennials, I believe Gen Z keep on continuing it. At any point in time, which isn't going to happen because everyone gets brainwashed K through college. Any point in time, we can start turning it around. But, like I said, I don't see the willpower or the intelligence or the independent thought, especially in the millennial generation. And certainly even to this day in the Gen Xers, I don't see the willingness, ability, or independent thought to do that. And so that's why I wrote the book, Enjoy the Decline. Anyway, that's it. You guys got questions, go to assholeconsulting.com. I will answer all your questions, except I'm going to charge you an arm and a leg. This thing took me almost 2 hours to put together with the data and the research. Get my books. Enjoy the Decline would be most pertinent to this. And it's Asshole Appreciation Month. Did you know October is Asshole Appreciation Month? I bet you didn't. Tell everybody about assholeconsulting.com and me. That's my marketing. That's really all my marketing. Like, spread the good word. Tune into the podcast. That's it. All right. We'll see you kids later. Toodles.